I spent my entire childhood wondering why my mother never smiled. Not at birthdays. Not at Christmas. Not even when I graduated or got married. She would not. She would say she was proud. But her face, it was always still. Like something inside her had gone quiet a long time ago. I used to think she didn't love me. I used to think I wasn't enough. But the day she passed away, I found a small wooden box under her bed. Inside were letters. Old, yellow letters tied with a faded ribbon. And a photograph of a little boy I had never seen before. That's when everything changed. That's when I realized that my mother's silence wasn't about me at all. It was about a pain so deep, she couldn't speak it out loud. A grief so heavy, she carried it alone for 50 years. And I never knew. I never asked. I just assumed. My name is Laura. I'm 53 years old now. And this is the story of the day I found out why my mother never smiled. It's also the story of how I learned that sometimes, the people we love the most are the ones we understand the least. I'm telling you this because maybe you have someone in your life like that too. Someone who seems cold, distant, hard to reach. Maybe they're not heartless. Maybe they're just broken. And maybe, like me, you'll only understand them when it's too late. So if you've ever felt unloved by someone who should have loved you, if you've ever wondered why a parent, a spouse, or a friend couldn't show you warmth, I hope my story helps you see things differently. Because sometimes, silence isn't rejection. Sometimes, it's survival. Let me take you back to where it all began. My mother's name was Eleanor. She was a small woman. Thin. Quiet. She kept her hair tied back in a bun every single day, even on Sundays. She wore the same 3 dresses all year round, one blue, one gray, one cream, and she never complained about anything. Not the heat. Not the cold. Not the fact that my father left us when I was 7. She just kept going. Every morning, she woke up before the sun. She made breakfast. She cleaned the house. She worked at the local laundromat folding sheets and towels for 12 hours a day. Then she came home, made dinner, and sat by the window with a cup of tea. And that was it. That was her life. I grew up in a small town in Ohio. We lived in a 2-bedroom house at the end of a gravel road. It wasn't much, but it was ours. My mother paid for it with her own hands, one paycheck at a time. She never remarried. She never dated. She never even had friends over. It was just the 2 of us. And honestly, it felt lonely. I remember being a little girl and wanting her to play with me. I'd bring her my dolls, ask her to read me stories, beg her to come outside and watch me ride my bike. She would look at me with those tired eyes and say, "Not now, sweetheart. Not now." That's what I heard most of my childhood. Not now. Maybe later. Go play by yourself. I thought she didn't care. I thought I was a burden. So I stopped asking. By the time I was a teenager, we barely spoke. I did my homework in silence. I ate dinner across from her without saying a word. I learned to be invisible. Because that's what she seemed to want. When I turned 18, I moved out. I got a job at a diner 2 towns over, rented a small apartment, and started my own life. I didn't hate her. I just didn't know her. And I didn't think she wanted to be known. Over the years, I would visit her on holidays. I'd bring a pie or a card. She'd thank me quietly, offer me tea, and we'd sit in that same kitchen where I grew up, saying nothing important. I got married when I was 25. Her name was Joy, my daughter. My mother came to the wedding. She sat in the back row. She didn't cry. She didn't smile. She just watched. When I had my daughter a few years later, I named her Joy. I thought maybe that would make my mother happy. Maybe she'd soften. Maybe she'd finally show me something. She held Joy once. Just once. She looked down at her with this strange, distant expression. Then she handed her back to me and said, "She's beautiful." That was it. No warmth. No tears. No grandmother's joy. Just distance. I stopped expecting anything after that. I raised Joy on my own. My husband, Tim, was a good man. We had a simple, happy life. I didn't need my mother to be part of it. But deep down, I still wondered. Why was she like this? What happened to her? Why couldn't she love me the way I needed? I never asked her. I was too afraid of the answer. Years went by. My mother got older. Her back bent a little more. Her hands shook when she poured her tea. But she never asked for help. She never complained. When she turned 76, I started visiting her more often. Not because we were close, but because I knew she was alone. I'd bring groceries. I'd clean her kitchen. I'd sit with her while she stared out the window. And still, we didn't talk. Not really. One day, I asked her, "Mom, are you happy?" She looked at me like I'd asked her something in a foreign language. Then she said, "I don't think about happiness, Laura. I just think about getting through the day." That broke my heart. But I still didn't push. I still didn't ask her why. Then, one cold morning in November, I got a call from the hospital. My mother had collapsed at home. A neighbor found her on the kitchen floor. By the time I got there, she was unconscious. The doctor said it was a stroke. A bad one. She died 3 hours later. I held her hand as she went. And I realized in that moment that I had spent 50 years living with a stranger. I didn't know her favorite color. I didn't know her dreams. I didn't know what made her sad or what she thought about when she stared out that window every night. I knew nothing. And now I never would. Or so I thought. 2 days after the funeral, I went back to her house to start packing her things. It felt wrong. Like I was erasing her. But there was no one else to do it. I started in the living room. Then the kitchen. Then her bedroom. That's where I found the box. It was small. Wooden. Plain. Tucked under her bed, behind a stack of old blankets. At first, I almost put it back. But something told me to open it. So I did. Inside were letters. At least 30 of them. All addressed to my mother. All from someone named Thomas. And beneath the letters was a photograph. A black and white picture of a little boy. Maybe 5 or 6 years old. He was smiling. He had my mother's eyes. I didn't understand. Who is this child? Who is Thomas? I sat on the floor of her bedroom and started reading. And with every word, my heart broke a little more. The first letter was dated July 12, 1953. The handwriting was neat. Careful. The kind of handwriting people used back when letters meant something. It started with, "My dearest Eleanor." I read it slowly. "My dearest Eleanor, I hope this letter finds you well. I know it's only been 2 days since I left, but it feels like a lifetime. I miss you already. I miss your laugh. I miss the way you hum when you cook. I miss the way you hold our son when you think no one is watching. Please tell him I love him. Tell him Daddy will be home soon. I promise I'll be back before his 6th birthday. I promise we'll have that party you've been planning. Chocolate cake. Balloons. Everything. I love you both more than words can say. Yours always, Thomas." I stared at the letter. Our son. Our son? My mother had a son? I had a brother? My hands were shaking now. I put the letter down and picked up the photograph again. The little boy. The smile. Those eyes. This was him. This was her son. My brother. But I'd never heard of him. Not once. Not in 50 years. I reached for the next letter. My heart was pounding. This one was dated August 3, 1953. My dearest Eleanor. I'm sorry I haven't written sooner. Things have been harder than I expected. The work is tough and the days are long. But I'm doing this for us. For our family. So we can have a better life. How is he? Is he eating well? Is he sleeping through the night? I think about him every day. I think about you every day. Please write back soon. Your letters are the only thing keeping me going. All my love, Thomas. I kept reading. Letter after letter. Each one was full of love. Full of hope. Full of promises. Thomas wrote about coming home. About building a house. About watching his son grow up. About growing old with Eleanor. Thomas wrote about coming home. About building a house. About watching his son grow up. About growing old with Eleanor. He wrote about dreams. But somewhere around the 10th letter, the tone began to change. October 17, 1953. My dearest Eleanor. I received your last letter. I'm so sorry to hear that he's been sick. I wish I could be there with you. I wish I could hold him. Please take him to the doctor if it gets worse. Don't wait. I know money is tight, but his health is more important than anything. I'm trying to finish this job as quickly as I can. I'll be home soon. I promise. Please stay strong. I love you. Thomas. Then November 2nd, 1953. Eleanor. Why haven't you written back? It's been 3 weeks. I'm worried sick. Is he okay? Are you okay? Please, please write to me. I need to know you're both safe. Thomas. Then November 20th, 1953. Eleanor. I still haven't heard from you. I don't know what's happening. I don't know if you're angry with me or if something is wrong. Please. Just send me one letter. One word. Anything. I'm begging you. Thomas. I could feel the desperation in his words now. The hope was fading. The fear was growing. I turned to the next letter. December 8th, 1953. This one was different. The handwriting was messy. Rushed. Like it had been written in a hurry. Or in pain. Eleanor. I just received the telegram. I can't believe it. I can't breathe. Our son. Our beautiful boy. How could this happen? I'm coming home. I'm leaving tonight. I don't care about the job. I don't care about anything. I should have been there. I should have been with you. Please forgive me. Please. Thomas. I stopped reading. My chest felt tight. Our son. The telegram. I looked at the photograph again. The little boy with my mother's eyes. He was dead. My brother had died. And I never knew he existed. I sat there on the floor, holding that letter, and I cried. I cried for the boy I never met. I cried for my mother, who lost him. I cried for all the years she carried this grief alone. After a while, I wiped my eyes and kept reading. There were more letters. But these ones were unopened. They were still sealed. Every single one. I looked at the dates. December 15th, 1953. December 22nd, 1953. January 5th, 1954. January 14th, 1954. Thomas had kept writing. But my mother never opened them. I didn't blame her. How could she? How could she read words of love from the man who wasn't there when their son died? I carefully opened one of the sealed letters. January 14th, 1954. Eleanor. I know you won't read this. I know you're angry. I know you hate me. I hate me too. I should have been there. I should have never left. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I was being a good father by working hard, by providing for you both. But I was wrong. I wasn't there when he needed me. I wasn't there when you needed me. And now he's gone. And I don't know how to live with that. I came back to the house last week. You wouldn't open the door. I stood outside for 2 hours, calling your name. I understand. I deserve your silence. I understand. I deserve your silence. But please, Eleanor. Please don't shut me out forever. I love you. I will always love you. Even if you never forgive me. Thomas. I put the letter down. So that's what happened. Thomas left to work. To provide. To build a better life. And while he was gone, their son got sick. And he died. I put the letter down. So that's what happened. Thomas left to work. To provide. To build a better life. And while he was gone, their son got sick. And he died. And my mother blamed him. She blamed him for not being there. Blamed him for choosing work over family. And she never forgave him. That's why she never remarried. That's why she never smiled. That's why she lived her whole life in silence. Because her heart had broken so badly, she couldn't put it back together. I kept going through the box. There were a few more letters. All unopened. All from Thomas. The last one was dated June 1st, 1954. I opened it. Eleanor. This is my last letter. I won't bother you anymore. I just wanted you to know that I'm leaving town. I can't stay here. Everywhere I look, I see him. I see you. I see the life we were supposed to have. I'm sorry I failed you. I'm sorry I failed him. I hope someday you find peace. I hope someday you can forgive me. Even if I never forgive myself. Goodbye, Eleanor. I will love you until the day I die. Thomas. That was it. That was the last letter. I sat there for a long time, staring at the pile of papers in front of me. My mother had carried this pain for over 50 years. She never spoke about it. She never let it out. She just buried it. Deep. And she lived the rest of her life in the shadow of that grief. And then, 7 years after Thomas left, she met my father. I don't think she ever loved him. I think she just needed someone. Anyone. To fill the silence. And when he left too, when I was 7, she didn't even seem surprised. She just kept going. Like she always did. I finally understood. My mother didn't withhold love from me because I wasn't enough. She withheld it because she had none left to give. She had spent it all on a little boy who died too young. And a man she couldn't forgive. I thought about all the times I resented her. All the times I felt invisible. All the times I wished she would just smile at me. Just once. And now I realized she couldn't. Because every time she looked at me, maybe she saw him. Maybe I reminded her of what she lost. Maybe loving me felt like a betrayal to the son she couldn't save. I put the letters back in the box. I placed the photograph on top. And I closed the lid. I didn't know what to do with this information. I didn't know how to feel. Sad? Angry? Relieved? All of it, maybe. I sat in that quiet bedroom, surrounded by my mother's things, and I felt something shift inside me. For the first time in my life, I didn't see her as cold. I saw her as broken. And I wished I had asked her about it while she was still alive. I wished I had given her the chance to tell me. Because maybe if she had, she wouldn't have had to carry it alone. But I didn't ask. And now it was too late. I stayed in that house until the sun went down. And when I finally left, I took the box with me. I didn't know what I was going to do with it yet. But I knew I couldn't leave it behind. Because it wasn't just her story anymore. It was mine too. I didn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about the letters. About the little boy in the photograph. About Thomas. Where did he go after he left? Did he ever get married again? Did he ever have other children? Was he still alive? I didn't know why it mattered to me. He wasn't my father. He was a stranger. A man my mother loved a lifetime ago. But somehow it did matter. Because he was part of her story. And now he was part of mine. The next morning, I called my daughter. Joy was 30 years old now. She lived 2 hours away with her husband and their son, my grandson Ethan. I hadn't told her about the letters yet. I didn't know how. But I needed to talk to someone. When she answered, her voice was bright and warm. Hey, Mom. What's up? I hesitated. Joy. I found something. At Grandma's house. There was a pause. Kind of something. I took a breath. Letters. And a photograph. Of a little boy. What little boy? Your grandmother's son. Silence. Then, quietly, Mom, what are you talking about? Grandma didn't have a son. She did, I said. Before me. Before my father. She had a son with a man named Thomas. And he died. When he was 6 years old. Joy didn't say anything for a long time. Then she whispered, she never told you? No. Never. Mom, that's awful. I know. Another pause. What are you going to do? I looked down at the box sitting on my kitchen table. I don't know yet. But I think I need to find him. Find who? Thomas. Mom, that was 70 years ago. He's probably. I know, I said. But I have to try. Joy was quiet again. Then she said, okay. I'll help you. That's my daughter. Always ready to help. Even when she doesn't understand why. We started searching that weekend. Joy came over with her laptop. We sat at my kitchen table with the letters spread out in front of us. We didn't have much to go on. Just a name. Thomas. No last name in the letters. And a town. He mentioned he'd been working in Pennsylvania in some of the early letters. We started with public records. Census data. Obituaries. It was slow. Frustrating. There were hundreds of men named Thomas in Pennsylvania in the 1950s. But then Joy found something. A marriage record. Thomas Brennan and Eleanor Grace Shaw. Married June 4th, 1948. That's her, I said, staring at the screen. That's my mother's maiden name. Shaw. Joy kept digging. She found a birth certificate. A boy. Born March 15th, 1949. Name. Michael Thomas Brennan. Mother. Eleanor Shaw Brennan. Father, Thomas James Brennan. Michael. That was his name. My brother's name. I touched the photograph. Hello, Michael, I whispered. Joy reached over and squeezed my hand. Then she found the death certificate. Michael Thomas Brennan. Died December 3, 1953. Cause of death, pneumonia. He was 4 years old. Not 6. 4. I had been wrong. He was so young. I felt the tears coming again, but I blinked them back. Keep going, I said. Joy nodded. She searched for Thomas James Brennan. We found a few records. Work permits. Tax documents. Then, a draft card from 1951. Then, nothing. No death certificate. No marriage records. No obituary. It was like he disappeared. Maybe he changed his name, Joy said. Or moved out of state. Maybe. We kept looking. Days turned into weeks. I became obsessed. I went to the library. I searched through old phone books. I contacted historical societies in Pennsylvania and Ohio. I even hired a genealogist. But no one could find him. Thomas Brennan had vanished. Thomas Brennan had vanished. Then, one afternoon, I got a call. It was the genealogist. Her name was Mrs. Kellaway. Mrs. Porter, she said, I think I found something. My heart jumped. What is it? I found a man named Thomas Brennan who lived in a town called Meadowbrook, Pennsylvania, in the late 1950s. He worked at a steel mill there. But in 1962, he moved to a small town in West Virginia. A place called Willow Creek. Is he still there? I don't know. But I found a property record. A house. It's still under his name. I wrote down the address. Thank you, I said. Thank you so much. I hung up and sat there, staring at the piece of paper in my hand. Willow Creek, West Virginia. 3 hours away. I called Joy. I'm going, I said. Going where? To find him. Mom, wait. We don't even know if he's still alive. I know. But I have to try. Joy sighed. Joy sighed. Okay. I'm coming with you. We left 2 days later. It was early morning. The sun was just starting to rise. Joy drove. I sat in the passenger seat, holding the box of letters in my lap. We didn't talk much. I think we were both nervous. What if he was dead? What if he was dead? What if he didn't want to be found? What if he didn't remember my mother? I tried not to think about it. We arrived in Willow Creek just after noon. It was a tiny town. One main street. A few shops. A church. A post office. We stopped at a gas station and asked for directions. The man behind the counter was old. Maybe 75. I showed him the address. He nodded. That's old Tom Brennan's place. Up on Miller Road. About 2 miles north. My breath caught. Is he still alive? The man scratched his head. Far as I know. Keeps to himself mostly. Don't see him much in town. But yeah, I think he's still kicking. I thanked him. Joy and I got back in the car. We drove in silence. Miller Road was a narrow, winding road lined with trees. At the end of it was a small house. White paint peeling. A sagging porch. A rusted mailbox with the name Brennan barely visible. Joy parked the car. We sat there for a minute. You ready? She asked. I nodded. But I wasn't. We walked up to the porch. The wood creaked under our feet. I knocked on the door. No answer. I knocked again. Then I heard footsteps. Slow. Heavy. The door opened. And there he was. An old man. Thin. Bent. White hair. Deep lines in his face. But his eyes were still sharp. He looked at me. Can I help you? I didn't know what to say. I just stood there, staring at him. Finally, I found my voice. Are you Thomas Brennan? He frowned. Who's asking? I swallowed. My name is Laura Porter. My mother was Eleanor Shaw. The color drained from his face. He gripped the doorframe. Eleanor, he whispered. Yes. He stared at me for a long moment. Then he said, You're her daughter. I am. He closed his eyes. When he opened them again, there were tears. Come in, he said quietly. We followed him inside. The house was small. Clean. Simple. Couch. A table. A few photographs on the wall. One of them was of my mother. Young, smiling, beautiful. I hadn't even known she could smile like that. Thomas sat down slowly in an old armchair. Joy and I sat on the couch. For a while, no one spoke. Then Thomas said, "How is she?" I looked down. "She passed away 2 months ago." He closed his eyes again. A tear rolled down his cheek. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "I found your letters," I said. "In a box. Under her bed." He looked up at me. "She kept them?" "Yes. All of them." He let out a shaky breath. "I wrote to her for months," he said. "After Michael died. After she shut me out. I tried so hard to reach her." "I know," I said. "I read them." He wiped his eyes. "I shouldn't have left," he said. "I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought if I worked hard, if I saved money, we could have a better life. But I was wrong. I should have stayed." "She never opened most of your letters," I said gently. He nodded. "I figured as much. I figured as much." "Why didn't you come back?" I asked. "Why didn't you try again?" He looked at me with tired, broken eyes. "Because she told me not to," he said. "The one time I saw her after the funeral, she looked me in the eye and said, 'I never want to see you again.'" His voice cracked. So I honored that. I left. I stayed away. I spent the rest of my life trying to forget. "Did you?" I asked quietly. He shook his head. "No. Not for one single day." I reached into the box and pulled out the photograph of Michael. I handed it to him. He took it with trembling hands. And then he broke. He sobbed. Deep, chest-shaking sobs. The kind that come from 50 years of holding everything in. Joy and I sat there, silent, while he cried. After a while, he whispered, "I'm so sorry, Michael. I'm so sorry I wasn't there." I felt my own tears fall. "She loved you," I said softly. "Both of you. She just didn't know how to show it anymore." Thomas looked at me. Was she ever happy?" I thought about it. Then I shook my head. "No, I don't think she was." He nodded slowly. "Neither was I." And in that moment, I realized something. They had both spent their entire lives punishing themselves for a tragedy neither of them could have prevented. And they had both died alone, carrying a grief they never shared. We stayed with Thomas for 3 hours that day. At first, we just sat in silence. He held the photograph of Michael in his hands, running his thumb gently over the edges like it was the most precious thing in the world. And I suppose to him it was. After a while, he started to talk. Not to me. Not to Joy. Just out loud. Like he'd been holding the words in for so long, they finally had to come out. He loved trains, Thomas said quietly. Michael. He had this little wooden train set I made for him. He'd push it around the kitchen floor for hours, making train sounds. Choo-choo. Over and over. He smiled faintly. Eleanor used to say he'd grow up to be an engineer. A real one. She was so proud of him. His smile faded. He got sick in November. Just a cough at first. Nothing serious. But it got worse. Eleanor wrote to me. Told me she was worried. I told her to take him to the doctor. I sent money. He paused. But I didn't come home. His voice broke. I thought I had time. I thought it was just a cold. I thought I was doing the right thing by staying and finishing the job. He looked at me. By the time I got the telegram, it was too late. He was already gone. I didn't know what to say. So I just listened. I came home as fast as I could, he continued. I took the first train. Didn't even pack. Just left. When I got to the house, Eleanor was sitting in the kitchen. Alone. Staring at nothing. He swallowed hard. I tried to hold her. She pushed me away. She said, "You weren't here. You weren't here when he needed you." A tear slid down his cheek. And she was right. He looked at me surprised. "You were working," I said. "You were trying to provide for your family. You didn't know he was going to die. You couldn't have known. But I should have been there." "Maybe," I said. "But you can't carry that blame forever. It wasn't your fault." He shook his head. Eleanor thought it was. "I know," I said softly. "And I think that's why she could never forgive you. Because if she forgave you, she'd have to forgive herself too. And she couldn't do that." Thomas looked at me for a long moment. Then he said, "You sound like her. You know that?" I smiled a little. "Do I?" "Yes." Same voice. Same way of thinking. He looked down at the photograph again. "I loved her," he said. "Even after everything. Even after she told me to leave. I never stopped loving her." "Did you ever try to reach her again?" Joy asked quietly. It was the first time she'd spoken in over an hour. Thomas shook his head. "No. I respected her wishes. I moved here. I got a job at a mill. I lived quietly. I never married. I never had other children." He looked at me. I didn't want to replace them. I didn't want to pretend they never existed. My heart ached for him. "So you've been alone all this time?" He nodded. "It's what I deserved. It's what I deserved." "No," I said firmly. "It's not." He didn't respond. I reached into the box again and pulled out the letters. All of them. I set them on the table in front of him. "She kept these," I said. "Every single one. She never threw them away." He stared at them. "Why?" he whispered. "Because she still loved you," I said. "She just didn't know how to say it." He reached out and touched the top letter. Then he pulled his hand back like it burned. "I can't," he said. "You don't have to," I said. "But I wanted you to know. She didn't forget you. She didn't erase you. She carried you with her. Every day. Just like you carried her." He covered his face with his hands. And he cried again. And I sat with him until the tears stopped. When he finally looked up, he seemed older. Tired. But also lighter. Like something had been lifted. "Thank you," he said. "For coming here. For telling me." "I needed to," I said. "For her. And for me." He nodded. Then he asked, "What was she like?" After I left. I thought about it. "Quiet," I said. "She worked hard. She took care of me. But she was never warm. Never affectionate. I used to think she didn't love me." Thomas's face fell. "I'm sorry. It's not your fault," I said. "I understand now. She wasn't cold because of me. She was cold because she was still grieving. She never let herself heal." "Neither did I," Thomas said. We sat in silence for a moment. Then I said, "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Do you regret it?" "Loving her." He didn't hesitate. "No. Never. Even with all the pain. Even with everything that happened. I would do it all again. Because the time I had with her and Michael, those were the best years of my life." I felt tears in my eyes. "She would have wanted you to be happy," I said. "After. She would have wanted you to move on." He shook his head. "Maybe. But I couldn't." "I know." He looked at the letters again. "Can I keep one?" he asked quietly. "You can keep all of them," I said. "They're yours." He shook his head. "No. Just one. The first one. The one where I told her I loved her." I found it and handed it to him. He held it carefully. "Thank you," he said. We stayed a little longer. Thomas told us stories about my mother. About how they met. About their wedding. About the day Michael was born. I listened to every word. For the first time in my life, I felt like I knew her. Not as my mother, but as a person. A woman who loved. Who lost. Who broke. And who never found her way back. Before we left, Thomas walked us to the door. He shook Joy's hand. Then he looked at me. "You have her eyes," he said. I smiled. "Thank you." He hesitated. Said, "If it's not too much to ask, can I write to you?" "Sometimes." My throat tightened. "I'd like that." He nodded. "Good." We said goodbye. As Joy and I walked back to the car, I turned and looked at him one last time. He was standing in the doorway, holding the letter, watching us leave. And for just a moment, I saw the man my mother had loved. Young, hopeful, full of dreams. Before the world broke him. We drove home in silence. When we got back to my house, Joy hugged me. "Are you okay, Mom?" I nodded. "Yeah, I think I am." She smiled. "Good." After she left, I sat at my kitchen table with the box in front of me. I pulled out the photograph of Michael one more time. I looked at his face. His smile. His eyes. And I whispered, "I'm sorry I never knew you." Then I placed the photograph on my mantle, right next to a picture of my mother. For the first time, I saw them together. Mother and son. The family she lost. The grief she carried. And I finally understood. She didn't withhold love because she didn't care. She withheld it because she cared too much. And she was afraid. Afraid that if she loved me the way she loved Michael, she'd lose me too. So she kept her distance. She stayed quiet. She survived. But she never lived. I thought about Thomas. About how he spent 70 years alone, punishing himself for something he couldn't control. And I thought about my mother, who did the same. Two people who loved each other, who lost everything, and who spent the rest of their lives drowning in guilt and grief. I made a decision then. I wasn't going to do that. I wasn't going to carry my mother's pain anymore. I wasn't going to let her silence become mine. I was going to live. I was going to love. To forgive her. And I was going to forgive myself. For not understanding sooner. For not asking the right questions. For assuming the worst. I picked up the phone and called Joy. "Hey, Mom," she said. "I love you," I said. There was a pause. Then she said softly, "I love you too." And I smiled. Because I meant it. And I knew she did too. And that was enough. A year has passed since I found those letters. A year since I met Thomas. A year since I finally understood my mother. And in that year, everything changed. Not all at once. Not in some big, dramatic moment. But slowly. Quietly. The way healing always happens. I started visiting Thomas once a month. At first, it was awkward. We didn't know what to say to each other. We were strangers connected by ghosts. But over time, it got easier. He told me more stories about my mother. About who she was before the grief took over. He told me she loved to sing. That she had a garden full of roses. That she wanted to be a teacher. I never knew any of that. He also told me about Michael. How he loved to draw. How he was shy around strangers but bold at home. How he used to climb into bed between Eleanor and Thomas every Sunday morning. And with every story, I felt like I was getting pieces of my mother back. The parts of her that died with Michael. The parts she buried so deep, even I couldn't find them. Thomas also changed. He started smiling more. He started taking care of himself. He even planted a small garden in his backyard. Roses. Just like Eleanor used to have. He said it made him feel close to her. One day, I brought him a letter I had written. Not from me, but from my mother. I know that sounds strange. She was gone. She couldn't write anymore. But I wrote it anyway. I wrote the letter I think she would have written. If she had been brave enough. If she had let herself heal. Said, "Dear Thomas. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I shut you out. I'm sorry I blamed you. I'm sorry I made you carry that guilt for so long. It wasn't your fault. It was no one's fault. Michael got sick. And we lost him. And nothing we did or didn't do could have changed that. I know that now. I wish I had known it then. I loved you. I never stopped. But I didn't know how to show it anymore. I didn't know how to let you back in. So I built walls. And I stayed behind them. And I spent my whole life hiding. But I kept your letters. Every single one. Because even though I couldn't say it, even though I couldn't face you, you were always in my heart. I hope you found peace. I hope you found happiness. And I hope you know that I forgive you. And that I'm sorry. With all my love. Eleanor." I handed it to Thomas with shaking hands. He read it slowly. When he finished, he folded it carefully and held it against his chest. "Thank you," he whispered. He didn't cry. He just sat there. Quiet. Still. And I knew in that moment that he had finally let go. After that visit, I started letting go too. I stopped resenting my mother for being distant. I stopped wishing she had been different. I accepted her for who she was. A woman who loved deeply. Who lost everything. And who didn't know how to come back from it. She did the best she could. And that was enough. I also started talking to Joy more. Really talking. Not just about schedules and groceries and who's picking up Ethan from school. But about feelings. About fears. About life. I told her about my childhood. About how lonely I felt. About how I always thought I wasn't enough. And she listened. She didn't try to fix it. She didn't tell me I was wrong. She just listened. And then she said, "I'm sorry you felt that way, Mom." But I want you to know, you're enough for me. You've always been enough. I cried when she said that, because I needed to hear it. And because I realized I had been doing the same thing my mother did. Been holding back. Not as much. Not in the same way. But enough. Enough that Joy noticed. Enough that I needed to change. So I did. I started saying I love you more. I started hugging her longer. I started showing up. Not just physically, but emotionally. And she noticed. One day she said, "Mom, you seem different. Lighter." I smiled. "I feel lighter." "Good," she said. "I like it." "Me too." I also started doing things for myself. Things my mother never did. I joined a book club. I started painting again. I traveled to places I'd always wanted to see. I let myself be happy. And I didn't feel guilty about it. Because I realized carrying someone else's grief doesn't honor them. Living does. A few months ago, I went back to my mother's grave. I hadn't been there since the funeral. I brought flowers. White roses. Like the ones Thomas planted. I sat down in the grass beside her headstone. And I talked to her. "Hi, Mom," I said. "I know you're not really here. But I needed to come." I took a breath. "I found your letters. I met Thomas. I know about Michael." The wind blew gently through the trees. "I wish you had told me," I said. "I wish you had let me in. But I understand now. I understand why you couldn't." I wiped my eyes. "I forgive you," I said. "For being distant. For not smiling. For making me feel invisible. I know it wasn't about me. It was never about me." I placed the roses on her grave. "I hope you're at peace now," I said. "I hope you're with Michael. I hope you're smiling again." I stood up. And as I walked away, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Freedom. I wasn't carrying her anymore. I wasn't carrying the weight of her silence. Her grief. Her pain. I was just me. And that was enough. Thomas passed away 3 months ago. Peacefully. In his sleep. I got a call from a neighbor who found him. When I went to his house to arrange things, I found a letter on his kitchen table. It was addressed to me. I opened it. "Dear Laura. This, I'm gone. Don't be sad. I lived a long life. Longer than I deserved, maybe. I want to thank you. For finding me. For giving me a chance to remember Eleanor. For letting me talk about Michael. You gave me something I thought I'd lost forever. Peace. I also want you to know. I don't regret anything anymore. I loved. I lost. I grieved. But I also lived. And that's all any of us can do. Take care of yourself, Laura. And take care of Joy. Don't make the same mistakes we did. Don't hide. Don't hold back. Love boldly. Love openly. Because life is short. And the people we love deserve to know it. With gratitude and affection. Thomas." I folded the letter and put it in my pocket. And I smiled. Because he was right. Life is short. And the people we love deserve to know it. So now I tell them. Every chance I get. I tell Joy I love her. I tell my grandson Ethan that he makes me proud. I tell my friends they matter. I don't hold back anymore. Because I learned something from my mother's life. And from Thomas's. Silence doesn't protect you. It just keeps you alone. And love is meant to be spoken. Shown. Shared. Even when it's scary. Even when it hurts. Even when you've been broken before. My mother never smiled. But I do. I smile at strangers. I smile at my daughter. I smile at memories. I smile because I can. Because I'm still here. Because I'm still living. And because I refuse to let grief steal my joy the way it stole hers. I don't know what happens after we die. I don't know if my mother and Thomas are together somewhere. I don't know if Michael is with them. But I like to think they are. I like to think they're finally at peace. Finally smiling. Finally free. And I think, maybe that's enough. Dead don't need our grief. They need our love. Our memories. Our stories. So I'm telling hers. I'm telling the story of the woman who never smiled. And the man who never stopped loving her. And the little boy they lost too soon. I'm telling it so people know. So people understand. That sometimes, the coldest people are the ones who've been hurt the most. And sometimes, silence isn't cruelty. It's survival. And, sometimes, the greatest act of love is just to forgive. So if you're reading this or listening to this and you have someone in your life who seems distant, someone who doesn't smile, someone who can't seem to let you in, please, be patient. Be kind. Ask them why. Because you never know what weight they're carrying. You never know what they've lost. And you never know how much they need you to see them. Really see them. The way I wish I had seen my mother. Before it was too late. Thank you for listening to Eleanor's story. Now I'd love to hear from you. What would you have done in Laura's place? Would you have searched for Thomas? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story touched your heart, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. There are many more real-life stories waiting for you here. Until next time, take care of yourself and the people you love. Goodbye.